So, Hilary, tell us, first of all, like a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Who are you?
So my name is Hilary. I just turned 30 and I'm originally from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, but I currently live in Ithaca, New York, up here with my husband and my dog who's sleeping. And I love to educate people on essential oils. And then I also work in higher education. And a few things about myself. I love to cook. I love to bake. Um, I have a sourdough starter right now. That's like my second baby. I mean, because she's my first baby. And I just love to be outside. And yeah, I also love Netflix a lot. So that's a little recap about me.
I love it. A little nutshell. So,
Yeah.
Hilary, I would love to know, and I do know, but I know others want to know what prompted you to initially reach out and invest in nutrition coaching? Where was your headspace at?
Yeah, so it was at the end of 2018. And honestly, prior to that, it was a few years of me um, gaining weight, sometimes slowly gaining weight, and then just, kind of packing on pounds. A lot of that was just related to change in my life. And I came to a point where I have tried doing it by myself so many times where I was like, you know what? We're coming up on a new year. I really need to start taking care of myself. I'm entering my 30th year of life and I'm not happy with where I'm at. And I was feeling very overwhelmed at the thought of trying to start this again. And how do I even begin? Where do I start? What do I do first? And you and we've known each other for a while now, and I started following you on Instagram pretty religiously. And then just saw your services. I honestly loved your approach. And I definitely saw the investment that I needed to invest in myself. And this is something that, my husband and I needed to do, as in like he's in it too, because he's supporting me and it's also our finances. And I just needed help. So I think my first month started the very beginning of November, because going into the holiday season, I was so overwhelmed. And that's when I reached out to you at the very end of October. And I thought, this is what I need to do. So yeah.
And I know that was really scary. So, like when we initially spoke, there was a lot of fear about the
Hmm.
investment of time, of energy, of finances. But then I know you had mentioned it hasn't worked for me before. So, what makes this any different? So, what was the fear that you were feeling kind of making this decision that potentially could have held you back?
Yeah. Yeah. So like I mentioned, I have just tried so many times doing it on my own, and it didn't work. So I knew that partnering with someone who is so educated and has great tools and resources, I just felt more confident that I could at least start learning and start, losing fat or losing weight. And so there was a lot of hesitation in the beginning, and there was a lot of fear, just because once again I was starting a weight loss journey and I was freaking scared and almost like kind of freaking out because it never happened in the past. So yeah, there was definitely fear involved there in starting this, but like I knew that it would work, but yeah, there was definitely still some fear.
Normal, yes, totally.
Yeah.
And I know it's not easy to talk about stuff like that. So thank you for being so honest
Mhm.
and sharing of your experience. What do you think? So started in November, now we're March. So 5 months-ish into this process. What has been the biggest component that you feel has been the most helpful in not even just your weight loss journey, but like this health journey that you're on?
I feel like the things that you and I are doing, or what we're talking about, looking back at it, I'm like, this is so attainable. They're just little everyday things that I have totally like either switched my mindset about or have started incorporating in my life that I would have never thought to do by myself. But I'm like, duh, why wouldn't I do these? Because they're really great tools that are working for me, where I'm able to, have weight loss with them. And so I think that like eating slower, like some of the things like eating much slower, eating at least for 15 minutes, for example, I never thought of that ever. Like, why would I think about eating slow? Like before I was eating meals in like 6 minutes. So like just a small, tiny, tool like that was like a complete game changer because, now I can feel how full I am. I don't eat as much. And so I think just learning steps and tools like that has been so rewarding because I wouldn't have got there by myself. Yeah.
And I think, Hilary, you hit the nail on the head too. So like we talked a lot about mindset, and initially a lot of people maybe are hesitant because they're like, oh, it's just another program or it's just another set of rules. And right up front, I was very transparent about like how this was so different. And I know it takes trying to actually understand, but tell us just a little bit about how focusing on mindset and not necessarily like diet rules has
Mhm.
helped you achieve the weight loss that you have so far.
Yeah. So, going into it, I will say, like when you and I first started, we were setting up those tools that I can put in my tool belt to help me be successful. And then I remember just like kind of having panic moments, like the fear we mentioned in the beginning. Like I know that this will work, but I'm like freaking out. I'm feeling over like I'm scared. I don't know what to do. So there was a time where I was doubting myself in this process when I knew that it was going to work. And so you're like, whoa, okay, so we need to stop and we need to focus on mindset, which was so true because once again, trying to do this on my own the million other times before, I never took time to focus on, the stories that I'm telling myself in my head, how I'm thinking about myself. I never, ever, ever focused on mindset. And, I'm someone who struggled with, self-esteem issues, honestly, pretty much since like 10 years old. And I didn't even think about it because it was so normal in my head. Like, so for you to be like, stop, we need to focus on like the story that you're telling yourself was a huge game changer. I'm going to say not only in my weight loss goal, but like literally in my life. So like you are also like secretly my life coach in that way with that, topic that we were working on. And it started really small. So we recognized it. And, in the beginning, I was like, I don't even know what to say about myself. Like, I don't know what's good about myself. I don't know how to word nice things about myself because it was just, that was not a normal for me. Um, and so we just started off slowly with working on affirmations, which I found very helpful. And then with that, I started incorporating yoga, which is something I already loved. I just wasn't incorporating it. And so with the meditation, then I can incorporate yoga, which is another great opportunity for me to feel strong and say affirmations to myself while I'm practicing. And so it wasn't like an overnight thing or a week thing. It didn't like turn around in a week. But it was something that we consistently worked on that had a huge impact on the talk that I gave myself, like that negative talk that I was always giving myself, eventually that kind of started to slow down and other things would come up that were more positive. And so I feel like mindset is a huge, huge tool that we need when it comes to losing weight.
Yes, that's like my favorite thing I've heard all day. I think we forget that like thoughts influence our feelings and feelings are what trigger our actions. So we have to kind of start back here, and you've been doing a great job of that. Thank goodness you kind of took that second to pause and reevaluate the scripts that kind of were running through your brain.
Right.
So you kind of alluded to the progress that you've seen, Hilary, but tell us, what have you changed or what are the things that you're really proud of accomplishing since starting with the coaching process?
Yeah, so before I feel like if I were to start this by myself, to start like a little weight loss goal by myself, I usually would have like a huge goal in mind that now looking back on it, it was probably really unrealistic and I was putting way too much pressure on myself. And then if I wasn't accomplishing that, then I would just go in a downward spiral. So going into this, knowing like how to set small goals where, we can attain them and then we celebrate them. And overall, just, seeing that my pants fit looser and I have lost weight and I do feel more confident in clothes because I love clothing and I love fashion and I want to look good in clothes. And just experiencing that and just knowing that I'm eating more vegetables, which you're stuff like that, which is good for my skin and good for my hormones. Like all this stuff kind of falls into place. So that is something that I'm seeing through coaching, and I'm so thankful for it.
Yay, it's also connected, right? Like physical
Yeah.
health, mental health, life just in general. That's
Hmm.
what this is all about. So, final question, if thinking back to where you were mentally and physically before you made this decision to invest in one-on-one nutrition coaching, would you recommend it? And what would you tell someone that's like sitting in that spot like, I'm afraid and I don't know if this is the right thing? Like what advice do you have for that person?
I would 1,000,000% recommend it. It is hard doing it alone, and we put so much pressure on ourselves to do things a certain way and to look a certain way, and we need to step back and we need to accept help. And honestly, like that's where you come in. And so having someone that goes alongside you helps you understand things better, helps I don't want to say like take a load off, but I kind of do want to like say it that way in that I don't have as much anxiety around it or not as scared because I know that you're there and you're walking alongside me through this entire process. And so having that support person and someone that also keeps you accountable is so important. So the weight that I've lost now, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I never would have been able to do this by myself. And, maybe I would have, but no, I would not have been able to do it. Because of things that you and I talk about, I don't think I wouldn't have thought that way if it wasn't for you. And you just like, you open things up a different way, which makes it more manageable, more tangible, easier to digest. Not like food digest, but like digest in our brains. Um, and it is literally worth every single penny. And I'm so thankful that I jumped in and I did it because it has already made a huge impact in my life.
And this is not the end of your journey, onwards and upwards
No.
from here. We've got summer goals, like we're
Yeah.
still running hard after it. So
Right.
thank you, Hilary, for sharing your experience and your story. I know it'll be super helpful for others.